Shall we play a game? How about Nuclear Crisis? My name is Ian James, and I am the designer. In Nuclear Crisis, we try to capture the excitement and tension of the Cold War. Players take the role of great powers using a hand of action cards to influence the outcome of conflicts. Your goal is to win those conflicts to earn the most prestige over the 4 decades of the Cold War. On October 16, 1962, the United States detected nuclear missiles in Cuba and a conflict broke out. The U.S. and the USSR alternated taking actions that escalated tensions until they were on the brink of nuclear war. Russia finally backed down, and the world moved on to the next conflict. Nuclear Crisis simulates that kind of situation. It is played over a series of 4 decades. During each decade, players get a hand of action cards, conflict cards are placed on the table, and players take turns playing one card at a time into those conflicts. Action cards are divided into political, military, and social, which is indicated by their face-side borders and a symbol in the top right. These cards are used to gain influence in conflicts, but they can also add crisis. Conflict cards are worth a certain number of prestige points if you win them. However, they have a limit on how much crisis can accumulate before an international crisis can break out. When you exceed the crisis limit, you have to roll a die. If you don't roll a higher number than the total crisis value of all the cards in that conflict, a crisis breaks out. The conflict and action cards are discarded, and you earn a crisis card. When every player runs out of cards or passes in a row, the decade ends. Any conflicts in play are resolved by determining which player has the most influence. That player draws a resolution card, resolves its effects, and then keeps the conflict card. Its prestige value is your score. When there are no conflicts left to resolve, you reveal the crisis cards earned during the turn. Every crisis card will reduce your prestige and thus hurt your chances of winning the game. There are 25 crisis cards in the deck, and 5 of them are Nuclear Crisis. If you draw this card, you keep it until the end of the game. If there are as many Nuclear Crisis cards in play at any time as there are players in the game ends and everyone loses. After you start the next decade, every player gets a new hand and new conflict cards are put in play. After 4 decades, the game ends, and whoever has the most prestige wins. In designing Nuclear Crisis, I wanted to create a fun experience that captured the game of chicken the great powers play. I also wanted a game that was easy to learn and accessible to non-gamers, kept every player engaged even when it wasn't their turn, didn't snowball with early success, and allowed players behind in score a way to keep enjoying the game. I think Nuclear Crisis succeeds at all of these goals, and I think when you play it, you'll agree.